Women who dated older men as teenagers that now realize they were predators. What's your story? He was my guidance counselor. I didn't realize how creepy he was until he proposed. The whole thing was fucked. What guidance could this man possibly have given to anyone? Fucking weirdo. You must not be familiar with guidance counselors. Even the non-pedo ones couldn't guide anyone out of a paper bag. I was 11 and he was 23. We didn't date. He had a girlfriend, but he would text me and send me nudes. Eventually I realized it was strange and blocked him. Didn't tell anyone about it. I sometimes wonder if it's impacted me more than I would care to admit. I'm from a third world country where it is normal for 15-16-year-old girls to date guys in their early to late 20s. Especially in the 90s when chat rooms became available thanks to the internet. At 13-14 years old with my girlfriends we would meet up with 18-19-year-old boys, which now I know it was not a good idea, but I didn't know any better back then. Until I moved to a different country where I learned that there were strict laws in place for adults dating having sex with teenagers. I was too stupid to understand why my mom was so upset when at 14 I had a date and got picked up in a car by a 24-year-old who bought me ice cream at MC Donald's, but luckily he was very nice and took me home after. Can't say I wasn't pressured into doing sexual stuff at very young age by much older men, but unfortunately that was the norm. Which country was it? Hungary. He texted that he was standing outside my middle school waiting for me. I broke out in a cold sweat and I knew I had made a massive mistake. I had sex with a 28-year-old when I was 13 and thought it was perfectly normal. He always complimented me, bought me stuff, and drove me places when I needed a ride. Looking back now I can't believe I didn't realize how fucked up that was. To this day he can't find someone to date that's his age. I'm 24 now. From what I heard from rumors. Thank you, and it's truly okay. After 3-4 years of therapy in my early 20s I realized it was not my fault. Even though he never emotionally or physically abused me, I always wondered for years after we broke up why I felt guilty and dirty for dating people that were my age. My relationship with him really messed me up for a while, but I'm happily engaged to someone closer to my age now. Did your parents not get suspicious when you got rides on your own or when you got new stuff out of nowhere? I'm not OP or related to OP, but my sister was about 14 and she was in a similar relationship with a man in his 20s. She would say she was walking to a friend's house and meet the guy a couple blocks away. The items, money, cigarettes, pot, etc. was all kept secret or was being borrowed from a friend. So many lies. It was absolutely insane. I only found out about this guy after. First, she was apparently using my cell phone to text him after I was asleep. This was in the early 2000s. He called and asked for her and I had a hunch this crap was going on. So I asked him if he knew she was 14. The guy stuttered something and hung up. Shortly after that our dad caught her giving the dude head in the parking lot of a bank in the middle of the night. She tried to lie her way out of that one to our mom because our parents were divorced and dad was not the most upstanding citizen. She tried to frame it as if dad was drunk and lying. Yeah, right. For once he was sober and honest about something. As a father, the comments scare the shit out of me. If you leave your wife, stay involved with your kids. It was my mom's new husband that got to me around 8. Once I hit 12 I was having sex with teenagers and guys in their 20s in what I now realize was some stupid attempt at taking back control after years of abuse. This isn't even mentioning my crazy abuse of drugs during that time, and my current use of alcohol. Honestly, I just started reading the Gift of Fear book that gets mentioned around Reddit and it's a tough read, but it really does spell out how abusers groom victims. I do recommend it. How are you doing today? I'm a mess inside, but I hold it together well on the outside. I'm suicidal and probably alcoholic. I started smoking and drinking and doing drugs to punish myself. I don't do drugs anymore. Well, okay sometimes, but I drink almost every day. Weirdly I was still interested in education, so I graduated high school with good grades, went to trade school, and eventually went to college, graduating with honors. I own a home, a paid off new car, have great credit, am married. I even bought my first house at 21. I just timed my drug and alcohol binges around exams and kept studying. And fucking too many gross dudes. But I have almost no self-esteem. I can't believe that I'm a capable human being. I'm still desperate for approval. I've gained too much weight. I've tried therapy but they never take me seriously. I don't know how to open up emotionally. I think it helps make me the cool girl because I don't engage in drama. I just keep everything in. But it does not help when I'm trying to talk to a therapist, you know? So honestly, I'm just kinda in a holding pattern of waiting to die, getting the courage to finally off myself internally while being a good friend, family member, co-worker in the outside. It's confusing. Much easier to stay either busy, drunk, or both. But thanks for asking. I was 16. A school teacher of 30 years used to touch me and text me stuff. I didn't really realize it was bad until some years later when he married a girl from my class. I didn't tell anyone because I was scared that people would think that it was my fault. I met a dude on Adult Swim's forums back when I was around 12. He was 24 and was nice to me. Things always seemed hinky to me even from the beginning. But I had no friends in real life and was definitely in an ugly duckling place. So I figured that if this is who is going to pay attention to me, so be it. He would tell me the things he wanted to do to me and eventually sent me a hideously low-res picture of his dick, and all I remember is trying to laugh it off and said I thought he sent me a picture of a sock. Skull. Eventually, he started asking that if we met in person if he could tie me up and take nudes of me. He started talking about buying a plane ticket to visit me and for my address, and I guess I finally had a bad enough gut feeling and didn't go through with it. My family eventually found out about us talking and it was a huge deal. I was rightfully banned from the internet for a while. Not that it mattered much, because I wound up meeting another awful dude older than me. But this one was locally grown, lol. I was 13 with a 22-year-old boyfriend. He made me feel special, grown up. My friends were all jealous. TBH, he was hot. A predator but a solid 10/10. We met on Xbox Live. Those were the days, and started a relationship. I was in my ugly duckling phase, so was drawn into it by the attention. No boys my own age seemed interested in me. I was bullied a bit and it was nice for a good looking older boy to think I was pretty. He slowly pressured me into sex. Started with pushing me into sexual acts on webcam, to oral, then full sex. He always insisted on filming everything because he loved me so much he wanted to only use our videos as porn. What I wasn't aware of was the fact he was showing all his friends and they made bets on how quickly he could get me to do something else. Whenever I pushed back he always said, if I wanted to date a man I needed to act like a woman, otherwise he would find a girl more willing to have a proper relationship with him. He then tried to pressure me into sleeping with his friends. Started with a threesome, him included. Then one night he asked me to just sleep with his friend. I saw his friend give him money, which is when I realized this whole thing was a lie and left. Whoa, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I hope you're doing well now. Oh yeah, I'm fine now. Went through a rough patch after this where I relied on sex to prove my self-worth, but snapped out of that at 15 and realized I needed help. A few years of therapy later I was back on track. Holy shit, I'm struggling to grasp these ages you are stating. Can't imagine dealing with stuff like that at those ages. Well done for getting through it. It's so weird how some people can get exposed to shit like that while the rest of us walk around ignorant. I relate to this so much. Sex is reversed. I was the younger guy and she was the older woman, pressuring me into sex. When she would go on an abusive tirade and I would get upset, she would tell me to stop getting emotional, saying I need to be a man, that she needs a man. Yet she was in her early to mid 20s and I was 15-16 years old. At 31, I see it for what it was now. Then, I was a broken teenager who'd been horrifically abused in every way imaginable by almost all older people around me. My parents were my main abusers. A teenage boy, looking for love and acceptance, also sexually driven. She saw that and took advantage of it. We met in a chat room. She lived in another state and she even tried to kidnap me to go live with her as a minor. She really is a sick fuck. On top of it all, she always wanted to have unprotected sex so I could give her a baby. One of the most heartbreaking things was hearing her supposedly cheat on me while on the phone. She did cheat on me and get pregnant by some guy who left her, then tried coming back to me 4 years later. Yet, she's left me alone. She needs to be in prison. Your story just triggered all that. Thanks for sharing. You did nothing wrong at 13. You did nothing wrong. Period. Hope you're better now and that you've moved past this. We're all insecure and wanting acceptance from our peers at that age. He took advantage of that for his predatory inclinations. Feel free to reach out if you ever need to talk. Finally, a therapist would be a good resource to get. They can help you process this. My first boyfriend, I was barely 15. He was 21, worked in a local shop, and all the girls at my school liked him, so came as a bit of a surprise when the biggest dork ever, me, somehow landed him and not any of the popular girls. We dated for maybe 4 months. Turned out he was sleeping with 3 girls in my year, which I found confusing because I begged him to take my virginity to no avail. Always found that really weird and insulting that he never even wanted to sleep with me. Plot twist. My mum had stormed into the shop when we first started dating and told him, "If you take my daughter's virginity, I will kill you with my bare hands." God bless my mum. Your mom knew you were dating someone that much older and was okay with it as long as he didn't have sex with you? That seems odd. My guess is that usually when moms forbid their own kids from seeing someone, it tends to have the opposite effect. So her mom did what she thought would work. Sounds like it did. Just to give some personal perspective on the part about teenage girls having a thing for older guys. I am someone who had major crushes on basically any male in authority when I was in school, and at the time I genuinely wanted to be with them. But I was also incredibly naive, entirely inexperienced sexually, and thinking back now I am so extremely grateful that none of them were interested in taking advantage of myself. Ultimately they were the adults, and they understood what is appropriate. So, I posted this in a thread called Redditors that have called off their wedding. Why? I called off my wedding 3 months before it happened. Why? I was a 17-year-old. I'd have been 18 at the time of the wedding. About to marry a 26-year-old man that had been dating me for 3 years. I was a victim about to marry her abuser. The engagement ring, which I did eventually find out was fake. He has money. Lots of it, but that didn't matter to me, was to buy my consent silence whatever as he stuck his dick in everything that moved. He was an alcoholic, a narcissist, a pedophile. Seriously, I wasn't a 14-year-old that looked like an 18-year-old. I was a 14-year-old that looked like a 12-year-old. I loved him because I thought he was saving me from my horrid situation with my family. My mom and I moved in with her boyfriend, only to find out too late that he was an abuser. He'd take me away from it, even if it was just for a little while. I was so messed up. I ended up living in a boarding house when things finally broke in my abusive household because, of course, I was 17 and he didn't want me to move in until I turned 18. His career depended on a squeaky clean image. I ended up pregnant, having a violent end to my pregnancy that resulted in my daughter's stillbirth. Despite this all, I loved him. But he started picking at my appearance. I was gaining too much weight even though I was at a healthy weight for my age height. I had gotten hips and breasts, so we talked about dieting. I stopped eating. I drank water when I'd get hungry. Everything had to be low fat, no fat, low calorie, no calorie, and sugar free. It worked. I went from healthy to underweight. What made me realize that I wanted out was a box of chicken wings. I ended up moving back in with my mother after she was able to escape her ex. We lived near an indoor flea market, farmers market that had the most amazing food vendors. I love food, and this diet was killing me. I was fucking miserable. So, I decided to have a cheat day, and I went and ordered a box of hot wings from the chicken place in the farmers market. As I sat down with my favorite movie, eating my favorite food, I realized that the extreme dieting would always be my life. I also realized that he wanting me to be so unhealthy wasn't right. I was tired all the time, cold all the time, hungry all the time. I decided, while happily munching on that box of wings, I was done. I called him, told him that I was done. It took me another 3 years to truly be done. But the very expensive wedding was done and over. He never got any deposits back. It took me almost a decade to realize that he wanted me to look like a 14-year-old forever. I was also always dismissive about the age difference, citing that I was mature for my age. I now realize it didn't matter. I was a child. My cousin in GA got with a guy when she was around 13 and he was around 26. She had 3 kids with him. He slept around with anyone who was willing, including his first cousin, her mom, my aunt, and her sister. He took advantage of her and fucked her self-esteem so much that she always takes him back. Her 3 kids now all have kids too. She is raising most of her grandkids. I feel sorry for all of them. Some parts of Georgia are like a third world country. I was going to post Sweet Home Alabama joke here, but then I've realized how fucked up this shit up. Damn.
Baby, walk through, but he know. Hey, walk through with her attitude. Gucci on the neck, I can't be mad at you. Yeah, I just do the shit I feel like I had to do. He's a swipe.